For 8 months, I pretended not to notice the man following me. I pretended not to see him parked across the street. I pretended not to notice the same face appearing in coffee shops, bookstores, and grocery stores. I pretended to be afraid. That was exactly what I wanted him to think. Because the truth was far more dangerous. You see, he believed he was studying me, learning my routine, tracking my every move. But what he didn't know was that every place he saw me, I wanted him to see me there. Every secret he thought he uncovered, I planted. Every clue he found, I left behind. Because I wasn't the victim. I was bait. And the reason I was bait was because of what happened to my sister 3 years earlier. The sister who vanished without a trace. The sister whose case was never solved. The sister who had been stalked by the exact same man. Most people think they would immediately notice if they had a stalker. They're wrong. The truth is much more unsettling. You notice little things first. Tiny things. The kind of things that seem too insignificant to mention. A familiar face. A familiar car. A familiar coincidence. Then another coincidence. And another. Until eventually, you realize they aren't coincidences anymore. They're patterns. Before we go any further, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let us know where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you, and while you're at it, could you do us a favor and hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos? The first time I noticed him was outside a coffee shop. He was sitting alone, reading a newspaper. Nothing unusual. The second time was 3 days later. Different location. Same man. Same newspaper. The third time was at a bookstore. The fourth time was at a grocery store. The fifth time was outside my apartment. By then I knew. Someone was watching me. The funny thing is, I wasn't scared. Not at first. I should have been. Any normal person would have been. But the moment I saw his face, I recognized him. Not because I'd met him. Because I'd seen him before. Years earlier. In a photograph. A photograph connected to my sister's disappearance. 3 years ago, my sister Sarah vanished. No warning. No goodbye. No explanation. One day she was there. The next day she was gone. The police called it a missing person case. Then a cold case. Then eventually, nothing. The investigation died. The media lost interest. Everyone moved on. Everyone except me. I spent 3 years studying every detail. Every report. Every witness statement. Every photograph. Including one photograph taken by a security camera 2 days before Sarah disappeared. The image was blurry. Poor quality. Most people ignored it. I didn't. Because there was a man standing across the street. Watching her. The same man who was now watching me. The moment I realized that, everything changed. Because suddenly I wasn't dealing with a stalker. I was dealing with a clue. The first real clue I'd had in years. So instead of running, I started planning. The next morning I changed my routine. Deliberately. I left my apartment 40 minutes later than usual. I took a different route to work. Stopped at a different cafe. And sure enough, there he was. Not close enough to be obvious. Not far enough to lose sight of me. Following. Observing. Studying. A small smile appeared on my face. Because now I knew something. He wasn't just watching. He was interested. Which meant I could use that. Over the next month, our strange game continued. Every day I left breadcrumbs. Every day he followed them. Every day I learned a little more. And every day he became more confident. More comfortable. More careless. Then one night everything changed. I returned home to find something sitting on my doorstep. A plain brown envelope. No stamp. No address. No name. Just an envelope. Waiting. For me. The moment I picked it up, I knew it had come from him. The question was why. I carried it inside. Locked the door. Checked every window. Then slowly opened it. Inside was a single photograph. Nothing else. No note. No message. No explanation. Just a photograph. The second I saw it, my blood ran cold. Because the picture wasn't of me. It wasn't of my apartment. It wasn't of anything recent. It was a photograph of Sarah. Taken 2 days before she disappeared. And written on the back were 5 words that changed everything. She was looking too hard. For the first time since this began, I was afraid. If you are enjoying this story, feel free to drop a comment of your opinion, and could you do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Back to the story. For almost 10 minutes, I sat motionless on my living room floor. The photograph remained in my hands. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. She was looking too hard. 5 words. That's all it took. 5 words to destroy 3 years of unanswered questions. And 5 words that suggested something terrifying. Sarah hadn't simply disappeared. Someone had wanted her gone. Someone who knew exactly what she had been investigating. Someone who was watching. The same someone who was now watching me. For the first time since this began, I considered calling the police. But then I remembered something. I already had. 3 years ago. 4 times, actually. Each time I'd brought them theories. Leads. Names. Photographs. And each time I got the same response. No evidence. No proof. No case. By now, they viewed me as the grieving sister who couldn't let go. Maybe they were right. Maybe I couldn't. But grief wasn't what kept me searching anymore. It was certainty. Deep down, I knew Sarah hadn't run away. I knew she hadn't abandoned us. I knew something had happened. The question was what? I looked at the photograph again. This time more carefully. That's when I noticed something unusual. In the corner of the image was a reflection. Tiny. Barely visible. Most people would have missed it. But Sarah had taught me to notice details. And the reflection showed something interesting. A street sign. I immediately grabbed my laptop. Within minutes I was comparing maps. Street layouts. Old photographs. Anything I could find. 2 hours later I found it. The location where the picture had been taken. And my blood ran cold. Because it wasn't random. It was the exact neighborhood where Sarah was last seen alive. The same neighborhood police had searched dozens of times. The same neighborhood that had produced absolutely nothing. Until now. The next morning I drove there. Alone. The area looked ordinary. Small businesses. Coffee shops. Apartment buildings. People walking dogs. People heading to work. Nothing suspicious. Nothing unusual. Nothing that suggested a woman had vanished without a trace. Still, I spent hours walking the streets. Looking. Searching. Comparing old photographs to current locations. Eventually, I found the exact spot. The place where Sarah's picture had been taken. I stared at it. Trying to understand why someone would send me this. Why now? Why after 3 years? Then a voice behind me spoke. You shouldn't be here. I spun around instantly. An elderly woman stood near the entrance of a laundromat. She looked nervous. Very nervous. Excuse me. She glanced around before lowering her voice. I've seen your face before. Every nerve in my body tightened. My face? She nodded. You look just like her. My heart nearly stopped. Like who? The woman swallowed. The other girl. Sarah. It had to be Sarah. I stepped closer. You knew my sister? The woman's eyes widened. Then she immediately regretted saying anything. I could see it. The fear. The hesitation. The desire to walk away. But I couldn't let her. Please. My voice cracked. Please tell me what you know. The woman stared at me for several seconds. Then finally whispered. Your sister kept asking questions. The words sent chills through my body. What questions? Again, she looked around. Checking the street. Checking nearby windows. As if she expected someone to be watching. Then she leaned closer. About the disappearances. I froze. Disappearances. Plural. Not disappearance. Disappearances. Wait. My voice barely worked. What do you mean disappearances? The woman's face turned pale. The moment she realized what she'd revealed. She stepped backward immediately. I've said too much. No. I followed her. Please. But she was already walking away. Faster. More frightened. More desperate to leave. Then she said something over her shoulder. Something that haunted me for weeks afterward. Your sister wasn't the first. And then she was gone. I stood there frozen. Trying to process what I'd just heard. Sarah wasn't the first. The sentence echoed repeatedly inside my head. Again. And again. And again. Because if Sarah wasn't the first, then who were the others? That afternoon I skipped work. For the next 8 hours, I searched every missing person report I could find. Every local article. Every forgotten news story. Every archived record. At first, nothing stood out. Then I found one. A woman. 27 years old. Missing. 5 years ago. Same neighborhood. I found another. Then another. Then another. By midnight, I had identified 6 women. 6. All missing. All connected to the same area. All forgotten. and all sharing one disturbing detail. Every single one had vanished after reporting suspicious behavior. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. This wasn't coincidence anymore. This was a pattern. And suddenly I understood why Sarah had disappeared. She'd found the pattern too. Which meant one thing. Someone knew she was investigating. Someone silenced her. And if the envelope sender was right, that someone had now noticed me. At exactly 1:13 a.m., my phone vibrated. Unknown number. No caller ID. No message. Just a single photograph. My blood froze. Because the picture had been taken earlier that day. And the subject of the photograph was me, standing outside the laundromat, talking to the elderly woman. Someone had been watching us. Someone had seen everything. And beneath the picture were 7 words. Now you're looking too hard too. The photograph remained on my phone screen. My own face. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. Whoever sent this wasn't guessing. They weren't threatening me. They were informing me. They knew exactly where I'd been. Exactly who I'd spoken to. Exactly what I'd learned. Which meant one thing. Someone had been watching us. The entire time. I barely slept that night. Every creak in the apartment made me jump. Every passing car made me peek through the blinds. Every shadow looked suspicious. For the first time since this started, I wasn't thinking about Sarah. I was thinking about myself. Because suddenly, this wasn't just her mystery anymore. It was mine. By sunrise, I'd made up my mind. I was going back to the laundromat. Maybe the woman would tell me more. Maybe she'd calm my fears. Maybe she'd explain what she meant when she said Sarah wasn't the first. I arrived just after 8 in the morning. The moment I turned onto the street, something felt wrong. Police cars. Yellow tape. Paramedics. My heart nearly stopped. I pulled over so fast my tires screeched against the curb. Then I ran. An officer stepped in front of me. "Ma'am, you need to stay back." "What happened?" "You can't be here." I pointed toward the laundromat. "The woman who works there." The officer's expression changed. "You know her?" A horrible feeling settled in my stomach. "What happened?" The officer hesitated. Then finally answered. "She was attacked early this morning." The world seemed to tilt. Attacked. Not robbed. Not injured. Attacked. As if someone wanted to silence her. Just like Sarah. I stood there frozen. Unable to move. Unable to think. Unable to stop hearing her final words. "Your sister wasn't the first." That afternoon, I skipped work. For hours I sat in my apartment replaying every second of our conversation. Every word. Every expression. Every hesitation. Then one sentence kept repeating itself. "Your sister wasn't the first." Not the first what? Not the first victim? Not the first investigator? Not the first missing woman? The more I thought about it, the more one possibility terrified me. What if Sarah wasn't the only woman who disappeared? What if she had simply been the latest? I opened my laptop and started digging. Again. Missing persons reports. Archived newspaper articles. Old online forums. Local records. Anything. At first, nothing stood out. Then I found one. A woman. 27 years old. Missing. 5 years ago. Same neighborhood. I found another. Then another. Then another. By midnight, I had identified 6 women. 6. All missing. All connected to the same area. All largely forgotten. And all sharing one disturbing detail. Each woman had reported suspicious activity shortly before vanishing. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. This wasn't coincidence. It was a pattern. And suddenly I understood why Sarah had disappeared. She'd found the pattern too. Which meant one thing. Someone knew she was investigating. Someone stopped her. Then another detail caught my attention. A name. The same name appearing repeatedly throughout old reports. Not as a suspect. Not as a victim. Not even as a witness. Just mentioned in passing. Again. And again. And again. Detective Richard Hale. My eyes narrowed. Sarah's case. Detective Hale. Missing woman number 1. Detective Hale. Missing woman number 2. Detective Hale. Missing woman number 3. Detective Hale. Every investigation. The same detective. At first, I told myself it was normal. Veteran detectives often work multiple cases. But something felt off. So I kept digging. That's when I found it. Detective Hale retired 6 months after Sarah disappeared. Abruptly. No retirement celebration. No public announcement. No farewell interview. Nothing. One day he was working. The next day he was gone. The timing bothered me. A lot. I searched for him. Property records. Social media. Public databases. News articles. Anything. Nothing. It was as though he'd vanished from the world. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. No caller ID. No voicemail. Just a call. My stomach tightened. Slowly I answered. Hello. Silence. No breathing. No background noise. Nothing. Then a man's voice. Calm. Controlled. Almost emotionless. Stop looking. Every hair on my body stood up. Who is this? Silence. Then. You don't understand what you're involved in. My grip tightened around the phone. Tell me what happened to Sarah. A long pause followed. Then something unexpected happened. The man laughed. Not cruelly. Not mockingly. Sadly. Like someone remembering something painful. Then he said, if Sarah had stopped looking. My heart pounded. What? She would still be alive. The line went dead. I sat frozen. Because the voice hadn't sounded like a killer. It hadn't sounded proud. Or angry. Or threatening. It sounded afraid. As if the warning wasn't for his benefit. As if it was for mine. The next morning, I made a decision. A reckless one. The kind that changes lives. I was going to find Detective Richard Hale. No matter what it took. 3 days later, I got my first break. An old property tax record. A rural address nearly 4 hours away. Deep in the mountains. Far from the city. Far from people. Far from everything. The sort of place someone chooses when they don't want to be found. By noon, I was driving. The roads became narrower. The forests became denser. The houses became fewer. Until eventually there were none at all. Just trees. Endless trees. Then I saw it. A small cabin hidden among the pines. My heart pounded. This was it. I stepped out of my car. The forest was silent. Unnaturally silent. No birds. No insects. Nothing. I slowly approached the cabin. One step. Then another. Then another. Suddenly. Click. The unmistakable sound of a shotgun being cocked. Get back in your car. I froze. Slowly, I turned around. An older man stood 20 feet away. Gray beard. Weathered face. Cold eyes. And a shotgun aimed directly at my chest. Detective Richard Hale. What do you want? He asked. My throat went dry. I need answers. His expression hardened. You need to leave. It's about Sarah. The moment I said her name, everything changed. The color drained from his face. The retired detective looked terrified. Not angry. Not annoyed. Terrified. Then he whispered 3 words that sent ice through my veins. He's found you. I stared at him. What? The detective slowly lowered the shotgun. Still staring at me. Still looking frightened. Then he said, the man following you. His voice trembled. Isn't the one you should fear. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. The forest seemed impossibly quiet. The only sound was the wind moving through the trees. I stared at Detective Hale, trying to understand what he'd just said. Finally, I managed to speak. What do you mean? The detective looked past me, toward the tree line, scanning, watching, as though he expected someone to emerge from the woods. Then he grabbed my arm. Inside. What? Now. The urgency in his voice caught me off guard. Before I could argue, he pulled me toward the cabin. The door slammed shut behind us. Then he locked it. Twice. I watched in disbelief. The retired detective moved from window to window, checking each one carefully, making sure they were covered, making sure nobody could see inside, making sure nobody was watching, or maybe, making sure someone wasn't. My pulse quickened. What is going on? He didn't answer. Instead, he poured himself a glass of water. Then another. His hands were shaking. Actually shaking. This wasn't the behavior of a guilty man. It was the behavior of a frightened one. Finally, he sat down and looked directly at me. When was the first time you noticed him? Him who? The man following you. The stalker. The detective immediately shook his head. No. His voice was firm. Almost angry. Don't call him that. I frowned. What? He's not your stalker. A chill ran through my body. What are you talking about? The detective leaned forward. His eyes locked onto mine. Did he ever touch you? No. Threaten you? No. Break into your apartment? No. Approach you? No. Attack you. No. Each answer made me more uncomfortable. Because I already knew where this was going. The detective continued. Every time he appeared, was he visible? I hesitated. Then nodded. Yes. Did he ever try to hide from you? No. Exactly. The detective sat back, looking exhausted. Then he said the one thing I never expected to hear. He wanted you to notice him. My stomach tightened. The words didn't make sense. None of this made sense. What are you saying? The detective rubbed his face. Then slowly answered. I'm saying he wasn't following you. I stared at him. What? He was watching over you. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because the statement sounded ridiculous. Insane. Impossible. The detective didn't laugh. His expression remained deadly serious. You think I'm crazy. Because you are. No. He shook his head. You just don't know the whole story. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he stood, walked toward a metal filing cabinet, unlocked it, and removed a thick folder. The folder landed on the table between us. I froze. Across the cover, written in black marker, were 2 words. Ava Harper. My full name. My heart nearly stopped. What is this? The detective looked away, then quietly said, everything. Slowly, I opened the folder, and immediately felt sick. Photographs. Dozens of them. No. Hundreds. Photographs of me. Leaving work. Walking home. Shopping. Driving. Talking with friends. Living my life. The photographs spanned years. Not months. Years. My hands began shaking. What is this? The detective remained silent. I turned another page. Then another. Then another. Every page contained more photographs. More notes. More dates. More observations. I looked up, horrified. This is insane. The detective nodded. Yes. Who took these? His answer came immediately. The man following you. The room spun. Because suddenly he sounded exactly like a stalker. Exactly. The detective saw my expression, then said something that stopped me cold. Keep turning pages. Confused, I obeyed. Page after page. Photographs. Dates. Locations. Then suddenly, everything changed. A page marked Incident Report. I frowned and started reading. June 14th. Subject nearly entered parking garage. Suspicious male observed inside structure. Subject redirected. Potential threat avoided. I blinked. What? I turned the page. Another report. August 3rd. Unknown vehicle followed subject for 6 miles. Intervention successful. Threat lost. My heart pounded. Another page. Another incident. Another intervention. Then another. And another. And another. The deeper I read, the stranger it became. These weren't records of someone hunting me. They were records of someone protecting me. For years. The detective watched realization spread across my face. Then quietly said, now you understand. I looked up, completely stunned. No. My voice barely worked. No, I don't. The detective exhaled heavily. Then said, your sister figured it out too. Everything inside me stopped. What? Sarah discovered someone was targeting young women. The room fell silent. She started investigating. My heart pounded. And? The detective closed his eyes. As soon as she got close to the truth, he couldn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I already knew. My voice shook. What happened to her? The detective stared at me. And for the first time since I'd arrived, I saw tears forming in his eyes. She disappeared. I slammed my hand onto the table. I know that. The detective flinched. Then whispered. No. The room fell silent. No. His voice broke. Sarah didn't disappear. Every muscle in my body locked. The detective looked directly at me, then spoke the words I'd spent 3 years desperately hoping never to hear. Sarah was murdered. The world shattered. Completely. And before I could process what he'd said, before I could breathe, before I could think, a gunshot exploded outside the cabin. Boom. The window beside us shattered. Glass flew everywhere. Instinctively, Detective Hale tackled me to the floor. And as another gunshot rang through the mountains, he shouted, he found us. Another shot followed. Boom. Wood splintered above our heads. For several seconds, all I could hear was ringing. My ears. My heartbeat. My breathing. Everything else disappeared. Then Hale grabbed my shoulder. Move. The fear in his voice terrified me more than the gunfire. Because if a retired detective was this scared, then whoever was outside wasn't ordinary. We crawled across the floor, staying below the windows. Another gunshot ripped through the wall, this time much closer. I screamed. A chunk of wood struck my arm. Pain shot through me instantly. But Hale didn't stop. He pulled me toward a back room, then slammed the door shut behind us. My entire body shook. What is happening? Hale was loading ammunition into a handgun. His hands moved quickly, practiced, efficient. The movements of a man who had done this before. Far too many times. Then he looked directly at me and asked, "Did anyone know you were coming here?" No. Think. No. Nobody? I shook my head. Nobody. Not my coworkers. Not my friends. Not anyone. The detective cursed. Then something occurred to me. Something terrifying. What if they followed me? The detective froze. For a moment he didn't speak. Then he slowly nodded. That's exactly what happened. My stomach dropped. Because suddenly I understood. The person outside hadn't found Hale. They'd found me. And I'd led them straight to him. Another gunshot echoed through the cabin. Closer. Then another. The attacker was moving. Closing in. Hale looked toward the window. Then muttered. We don't have much time. What do we do? His expression darkened. Then he opened another drawer. Inside were photographs. Maps. Documents. Years' worth of documents. The same investigation. The same disappearances. The same women. Including Sarah. I stared at the files. Completely overwhelmed. What is all this? The detective looked exhausted. It's everything I managed to save. Save from who? His answer came immediately. People with power. The room fell silent. My pulse quickened. What people? The detective shook his head. You still think this is one man? The words hung in the air. Then he added. It never was. A chill ran through me. Because suddenly every assumption I'd made felt wrong. The stalker. The disappearances. Sarah. The warnings. The photographs. Everything. What are you saying? The detective looked directly at me. Then spoke slowly. Carefully. As though choosing each word. Sarah discovered a network. A network. The word made my stomach tighten. What kind of network? His jaw clenched. The kind that makes people disappear. Before I could respond. Crash. The front door of the cabin exploded inward. Both of us froze. The attacker had entered. Hale immediately killed the light. Darkness swallowed the room. We stood motionless. Listening. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Getting closer. Every step sounded louder than the last. My breathing became shallow. The detective raised a finger, warning me to stay silent. Then the footsteps stopped. Right outside the room. The silence was unbearable. Then, knock. 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 3 soft knocks. Not aggressive. Not violent. Almost polite. The detective looked confused. So was I. Then a man's voice came through the door. Calm. Controlled. Familiar. Very familiar. Richard. The detective's face changed instantly. Not fear. Recognition. Richard. The voice spoke again. I know she's in there. My blood ran cold. Because I recognized the voice too. The phone call. The unknown caller. The man who had warned me to stop looking. The man who said Sarah would still be alive if she'd stopped investigating. The detective tightened his grip on the gun. Then whispered. Stay behind me. The voice continued. Richard, if I wanted her dead. A pause. Then. She would already be dead. The detective remained silent. The man sighed. Then said something that changed everything. Ask her about the parking garage. I frowned. Parking garage? What parking garage? The detective looked at me. Then slowly lowered the gun. What? The man outside continued. June 14th. My stomach tightened. The exact date from the file. The incident report. The one where someone redirected me away from a parking garage. The one I'd assumed was fake. The voice spoke again. Ask her what happened there. Hale looked shaken. Very shaken. Then finally opened the door. Slowly. Carefully. The hallway beyond was empty. No attacker. No gunman. No killer. Just a man standing at the far end of the cabin. Tall. Early 40s. Dark jacket. Tired eyes. The same man I'd seen for months. The same man I'd called my stalker. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then the man looked directly at me. Not angry. Not threatening. Not dangerous. Just tired. Incredibly tired. Then he said, "My name is Nathan." Silence. "My name is Nathan Cole." Another pause. Then, "And I've been trying to keep you alive for 3 years." For several seconds, nobody spoke. The silence inside the cabin felt heavier than the gunshots. Nathan Cole stood in the hallway. Calm. Motionless. Watching me carefully. Watching Detective Hale. Watching everything. The man I'd spent months calling my stalker. The man whose face appeared everywhere. Coffee shops. Bookstores. Parking lots. Street corners. The man I'd feared. The man I'd blamed. The man who now claimed he'd been protecting me for 3 years. 3 years. The exact amount of time Sarah had been gone. My pulse quickened. "No." The word escaped before I could stop it. Nathan didn't react. "You don't believe me." "Of course I don't." His expression remained calm. Almost patient. As though he'd expected this reaction. As though he'd rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times. Then he looked at Detective Hale. "Show her." The detective hesitated. Then slowly nodded. Without a word, he crossed the room and retrieved another folder. This one looked older. More worn. The edges were damaged. The color had faded. As if someone had opened it hundreds of times. My stomach tightened. Because written across the front were 2 words. Sarah Harper. For a moment, I couldn't move. 3 years. 3 years of searching. 3 years of questions. 3 years of hoping. And now my sister's name sat in front of me. The detective carefully opened the file. Inside were photographs. Notes. Maps. Interview transcripts. Police reports. But one thing immediately stood out. A red sticky note attached to the first page. The handwriting was unmistakable. I knew it instantly. Sarah's handwriting. My breath caught. Slowly, I picked up the note. The message contained only one sentence. "If anyone finds this, I'm running out of time." The room seemed to disappear. I stared at the words. Again. And again. And again. Sarah wrote this. Sarah knew she was in danger. Sarah knew someone was watching her. And she'd left proof. My hands began trembling. When did she write this? Nathan answered. 3 days before she died. The words hit me like a truck. Died. Not disappeared. Not missing. Died. Every time Nathan said it, the reality became harder to ignore. Harder to deny. Harder to survive. I swallowed hard. What exactly did Sarah find? Nathan and Hale exchanged a look. The kind of look people share when neither wants to be the one to answer. Finally, Nathan spoke. Human trafficking. The cabin fell silent. I blinked. Once. Twice. Certain I'd misheard him. What? Nathan's expression darkened. Sarah discovered a trafficking operation. My stomach dropped. The room suddenly felt smaller. Colder. Harder to breathe in. No. Nathan nodded slowly. At first, she thought she was investigating missing women. I looked at the photographs. The reports. The evidence. The 6 women. The disappearances. Everything. Nathan continued. Then she realized the women weren't simply disappearing. My heart pounded. They were being taken. A chill traveled down my spine. Because suddenly all the pieces fit together. The missing women. The attacks. The fear. The warnings. Sarah. The elderly woman. Everything. Nathan sat down across from me. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked exhausted. Not physically. Emotionally. Like a man carrying years of guilt. Then he said something unexpected. I met your sister. The words shocked me. What? Nathan nodded. I met Sarah 6 weeks before she died. Every nerve in my body tightened. You knew her? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? The pain in my voice surprised even me. Nathan looked away. Ashamed. Then quietly answered. Because I failed her. Silence. Heavy silence. The kind that hurts. Nathan rubbed his face. Then continued. When I met Sarah, she was already investigating. I listened carefully. Every word felt important. Every detail mattered. She was smart. A small smile appeared on his face. Very smart. For the first time since hearing Sarah's name, I smiled too. Because that sounded exactly like her. Then the smile vanished. Nathan's expression darkened. But she underestimated them. The room grew silent again. What happened? Nathan looked directly at me, then spoke slowly, carefully, as if reliving the memory. She got too close. The same words. Again. And again. Too close. Looking too hard. Running out of time. The warnings had been there all along. Then Nathan stood, walked to the window, looked into the forest, and whispered. She found their ledger. My pulse quickened. Their what? Nathan turned toward us, his face pale, his eyes serious. The ledger. Detective Hale immediately stiffened. The reaction didn't escape me. Neither man liked that word. Not one bit. I looked between them. What ledger? Nathan hesitated, then answered. The document that proves everything. The room froze. Proof. Actual proof. The thing Sarah had been searching for. The thing that could expose everyone. The thing worth killing for. My heart pounded. Where is it? Nathan looked directly at me, then said 6 words that changed everything. We think Sarah hid it. Silence. Total silence. I stared at him, unable to process what I'd heard. Wait. Nathan nodded. We never found it. The detective spoke next. Neither did they. The implications hit me instantly. If the traffickers never found the ledger, and Nathan never found the ledger, and Detective Hale never found the ledger, then there was only one possibility. The ledger was still out there. Somewhere. Hidden. Waiting. My voice barely worked. You think Sarah left it behind? Nathan nodded. Yes. A chill ran through my body. Because suddenly this wasn't just about solving Sarah's murder. It was about finishing what she started. Then Nathan said something that made my blood run cold. Something I'll never forget. That's why they're watching you, Ava. The use of my name shocked me. For the first time in years, hearing my own name felt strange. Dangerous. Nathan continued. They believe Sarah told you where the ledger is. The room fell silent. I stared at him, completely stunned. Because I had never heard of any ledger. Never. Not once. But if they believed I knew where it was, then I finally understood why someone had been watching me. Why someone had followed me. Why someone had photographed me. Why someone wanted me alive. And why someone else wanted me dead. The ledger. It all came back to the ledger. And somewhere out there, hidden by Sarah Harper before she died, was the secret everyone was willing to kill for. The cabin was silent. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Everything came back to the ledger. The disappearances. Sarah's murder. The warnings. The surveillance. The attacks. The stalking. The lies. The fear. Everything. A single document. A single piece of evidence. Somewhere. Hidden. Waiting. Finally, I broke the silence. If Sarah hid it. My voice sounded smaller than I intended. Where would she put it? Nathan leaned back in his chair, thinking. The detective answered first. That's the problem. I looked at him. What do you mean? Hale sighed heavily. For 3 years we've searched. The words shocked me. We. Nathan nodded. After Sarah disappeared, Hale and I started working together. That surprised me. The retired detective. The mysterious stalker. Working together. 3 years. The entire situation suddenly became even larger. Why? Nathan's eyes met mine. Because Sarah trusted us. The room fell silent again. My throat tightened. For some reason, hearing that hurt. Because if Sarah trusted them, then she had known she was in danger. Known she might not survive. Known she needed allies. And she'd never told me. Nathan seemed to read my thoughts. Ava. I looked away. I wasn't part of her life anymore. His voice softened. She was trying to protect you. The words stung. Because they sounded exactly like something Sarah would do. My sister always carried other people's burdens. Always protected everyone else. Even when nobody asked her to. Even when it cost her. Especially when it cost her. The detective suddenly stood. Without a word, he crossed the room. Opened another drawer. And removed a small cardboard box. My stomach tightened. What's that? Hale placed it carefully on the table. Sarah's belongings. The room seemed to stop. For 3 years I had imagined this moment. 3 years. Yet somehow I wasn't prepared. Slowly, I opened the box. The first thing I saw was a necklace. Silver. Simple. Beautiful. Sarah wore it every day. My chest tightened. Then came a notebook. Several receipts. A pen. Old photographs. Movie tickets. Random little pieces of her life. Ordinary things. Painfully ordinary things. Because they reminded me she had once been real. Not a mystery. Not a case file. Not a victim. Just Sarah. My sister. Then I noticed something strange. A photograph. Folded differently from everything else. I carefully unfolded it. The moment I saw it, my blood ran cold. It was a family photograph. Me, Sarah, our parents. Taken years ago. Completely normal. Except for one thing. A red circle. Drawn on the back. Around me. Not Sarah. Me. I frowned. What is this? Nathan immediately stood. What? I showed him. His expression changed instantly. Then he grabbed the photograph. Studying it carefully. The detective did the same. Neither looked happy. Not even a little. Nathan flipped the photograph over. Then froze. My pulse quickened. What? He slowly handed it back. Written in Sarah's handwriting were 6 words. Start where she first hid. The room fell silent. I stared at the message. Again. And again. And again. Start where she first hid. What does that mean? Neither man answered. Because neither knew. The detective began pacing. Nathan looked frustrated. I looked at the photograph again. Trying to remember. Trying to understand. Trying to think like Sarah. Then suddenly, I froze. A memory. Small. Forgotten. Buried. But there. Oh my God. Nathan looked up immediately. What? I stood. Heart pounding. When we were kids. The room fell silent. When Sarah got upset, I swallowed hard. She always hid in the same place. Neither man spoke. Neither even blinked. Where? I looked directly at them. Then answered. The lighthouse. Nathan froze. The detective froze. Even I froze. Because I hadn't thought about the lighthouse in years. Not since childhood. Not since before everything changed. The old lighthouse sat along the northern coast. Abandoned. Forgotten. Half destroyed. A place children weren't supposed to visit. Which naturally made it our favorite place. Sarah loved it. Whenever life became too much. Whenever our parents fought. Whenever she was scared. Whenever she wanted to disappear. She went there. The realization hit me like a truck. Start where she first hid. The lighthouse. Nathan looked at Hale. Hale looked at Nathan. Neither liked what they were thinking. Finally I asked. What? Nathan answered quietly. If the ledger is there. My pulse quickened. Then they already know. The room fell silent. A horrible feeling settled in my stomach. Because he was right. If Sarah left clues, someone else might have found them too. Someone might already be heading there. Someone dangerous. The detective immediately moved toward the door. We leave now. Nathan nodded. No arguments. Within minutes we were packing. Files. Maps. Weapons. Evidence. Everything. The atmosphere inside the cabin had changed completely. Urgency. Fear. Pressure. The clock was ticking. And everyone knew it. By sunset we were driving. The ocean appeared shortly after dark. Endless black waters stretching into the horizon. Waves crashing violently against the rocks below. And above them, the lighthouse. Standing alone. Silent. Watching. Waiting. Exactly as I remembered it. My heart pounded. 3 years. 3 years of searching. 3 years of questions. 3 years of pain. Could the answer really be here? Could Sarah have left us something? Could this finally be the end? Then Nathan suddenly grabbed my arm. Hard. What? His face had gone pale. He pointed toward the lighthouse. At first I saw nothing. Then I saw it. A light. Moving. Inside. The lighthouse wasn't abandoned. Someone was already there. And whoever it was, had arrived before us. For several seconds, nobody moved. The 3 of us stood outside the lighthouse. Staring. Watching. The light moved again. Slowly. Deliberately. Inside the tower. My pulse quickened. Someone was definitely there. Nathan immediately stepped in front of me. Instinctively. Protectively. I noticed it this time. The way he always positioned himself between me and danger. The way he scanned every shadow. Every doorway. Every window. As though he expected an attack at any moment. Then suddenly a thought struck me. A question I'd somehow forgotten to ask. Wait. Nathan looked at me. What? I pointed toward him. If you weren't the one shooting at us. The detective immediately looked uncomfortable. Then who was? The ocean wind howled around us. Nathan's expression darkened. For several seconds, he didn't answer. Then finally he sighed. I don't know. The answer shocked me. What? I arrived after the first shots. The detective nodded, confirming it. Nathan continued. I saw someone running into the forest. My pulse quickened. You saw them. Only briefly. What did they look like? Nathan looked frustrated. Dark clothing. Mask. The answer wasn't helpful. I pressed harder. One of the traffickers? Nathan's jaw tightened. Then he said something unexpected. I don't think so. A chill ran through me. What do you mean? His eyes shifted toward the lighthouse. Then back to me. Because whoever it was. He paused. Wasn't trying to kill Hale. The words hung in the air. I frowned. What? Nathan continued. If they wanted Hale dead, they had the opportunity. I thought about the gunfire. The broken windows. The shattered walls. The chaos. Then realization hit me. The shooter had missed. Every shot. Every single one. Nathan nodded slowly, as if reading my thoughts. Exactly. A horrible feeling settled in my stomach. The shooter wasn't trying to kill us. They were trying to scare us, warn us, or delay us. Before I could ask another question, the light inside the lighthouse disappeared. Instantly, the three of us froze. Whoever was inside knew we were here. Nathan reached for the flashlight on his belt. We're moving. Nobody argued. The old lighthouse stood atop a cliff overlooking the ocean. Its paint had long since peeled away. The windows were cracked. The structure looked abandoned. Dead. But Sarah's clue had led us here. And Sarah didn't leave clues by accident. The heavy entrance door groaned as Nathan pushed it open. Darkness greeted us. Cold. Silent. Ancient. The smell of salt water and dust filled the air. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then the detective shined his flashlight across the room. And froze. What is it? He didn't answer. Instead, he pointed. My stomach dropped. Written across the wall in faded black marker were 4 words. I knew you'd come. The handwriting was instantly recognizable. Sarah's. My eyes filled with tears. 3 years. 3 years. And somehow she was still leading me. Still leaving breadcrumbs. Still speaking. Even after death. Nathan carefully approached the wall, studying it. Then something caught his attention. There's more. I moved closer. Hidden beneath the message was a date. 3 years old. Written only days before Sarah disappeared. And beneath the date, an arrow, pointing upward, toward the spiral staircase. The 3 of us exchanged looks, then started climbing. The lighthouse seemed endless. Step after step, level after level. Dust covered everything. No signs of recent visitors. No footprints. No fresh marks. Nothing. Then halfway up the tower, I found something. A small carving in the wooden railing. At first glance it looked random. Then I recognized it. A heart. Inside it were 2 initials. H and SH. Ava Harper. Sarah Harper. My throat tightened. We'd carved it when I was 13. Sarah was 16. We'd sworn we'd never forget this place. The memory nearly broke me. Then Nathan's voice interrupted. Ava. I looked up. His face had gone pale. What? He pointed his flashlight toward the top of the staircase. And that's when I saw it. A figure. Standing motionless. At the very top. Watching us. My entire body froze. The figure didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't react. Just watched. For several seconds, nobody breathed. Then slowly, the figure stepped forward. Into the light. My heart stopped. The world stopped. Everything stopped. Because the woman standing there looked exactly like Sarah. Not similar. Not close. Exactly. The same eyes. The same face. The same hair. The same height. The same everything. I couldn't breathe. No. The word escaped before I could stop it. Nathan looked stunned. The detective looked stunned. I looked stunned. Because it was impossible. Sarah was dead. Nathan had said so. The detective believed it. The evidence supported it. And yet, there she was. Standing 20 feet away. Alive. Watching us. Then the woman smiled. A slow, sad, knowing smile. And spoke 3 words that shattered reality. Ava, it's me. And just like that, everything I thought I knew about my sister's disappearance changed forever. The man I believed was stalking me had just sent me a message. A message that proved Sarah's case was never over. But what I discovered next was far worse than I could have imagined. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss part 2. Trust me, you're not ready for what's coming next.